So good afternoon, good evening, early evening on this rainy, cloudy, somewhat cold and damp evening. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a regular board meeting, Harlandale ISD. Today is September 21st. We are beginning this meeting at 6:15 in the afternoon, early evening. My name is Norma Cavazos and I am the board president. I am going to introduce my colleagues this evening. Ms. Carrillo. Hi, Ms. Carrillo. Mr. Mendoza.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Ms. Carrillo. Hi, Mr. Mendoza. Good to see you, sir. Mr. Mancha.
Okay, I love you.
Present.
Hi, Mr. Mancha. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm blessed.
Ms. Limon.
Here.
Hello, Ms. Limon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Moreno.
Present.
Hi, Mr. Moreno. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well, thank you.
Good to see you. Ms. Ortiz. Hi, Ms. Ortiz. How are you? We do have a forum this evening. Mr. Soto, good afternoon, sir. Would you like to introduce your cabinet, please, that's here joining us this evening?
Yes, Madam Chair. Tonight we have Melissa Casey, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction.
Hi, Miss Melissa.
She said present, but she was muted. But we see you, Miss Casey.
Yes, we see you, Ms. Casey.
Mr. Richard Hernandez, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Here.
Hi, sir.
Oh, yeah.
We have Dr. Salinas, Executive Director of Human Resources.
Present. Hi, Miss.
We have Mr. Kyle Blakeney, Executive Director of Operations.
Present.
Hi, sir.
Good morning.
Mariana
Afternoon.
Verazo,
Hi.
Public Information Officer.
Here. Hello.
And we do have Dr. Castleberry, Judy Castleberry, joining us this evening. Welcome, Dr. Castleberry.
Hi, Miss.
Agenda item number 2, public comment. I believe we have 2 of our community members that have signed up for public comment. Is that correct, Mr. Soto?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. We have Mr. Tom Silliman speaking with us tonight.
Good evening and thank you.
Give me one
Madam
second. Yes, sir. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put your timer on. Give me 1 minute, sir, please. You have 3 minutes to speak, and I will periodically let you know where you stand on time. Okay, Mr. Silliman?
Thank you so much.
Go ahead, sir.
So Superintendent Soto and honorable members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. In today's agenda, you're going to be considering a recommendation to move forward with a new health insurance carrier for the 2021 calendar year. Humana was one of the respondents to this year's RFP, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to provide a proposal. In our proposal, we provided Harlandale ISD with benefit options that improve your current benefits and also provide the opportunity for the district to guarantee your first year renewal as low as 2%, depending on the district's engagement on our integrated wellness platform, Go365. We believe that the second year guarantee is important because it allows Harlandale ISD to get out of the traditional 12-month renewal cycle, which has forced you to consider new carriers every year. This cycle not only causes a significant amount of disruption for your employees, it also prevents your current carrier from collecting enough utilization data to provide a strategy to control the district's costs for the long term. Now, while considering tonight's recommendation, I hope you will equip yourselves with a good understanding, both cost and benefits, of the options available so that you can be confident that you are making the best decision for your employees. Should you have any specific questions regarding Humana's proposal, I will be here and I'll be a resource for you. Humana has had the opportunity to work with Harlandale ISD many times over the last 20 years, and we would love the opportunity to collaborate with the district to develop solutions designed to meet your specific needs, both in the short and long term. I know employee benefits make up a significant amount of the district's payroll budget, and it is important that these benefits provide the level of support that your employees are looking for. I look forward to hearing tonight's discussion this evening. And again, if I can provide any additional support, just know that I'm here and available. But thank you again for the time today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now we have Ms. Susan Salinas speaking with us this evening. Ms. Salinas, how are you, ma'am?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
Good evening, President Cavazos, School Board Member, Superintendent Soto, and community. I'm Susan Salinas with TSTA. As you may or may not know, the State Board of Education approved 2 new charters that will impact Harlandale. Prelude and Royal are building schools that will target students from school districts on the South Side. TSTA is encouraging the district to set up a task force with teachers, parents, students, and administration to develop a plan of action to educate the parents and community. For those in education, we know that the charter schools only target the top 5% of our students. They do not want any students who have disciplinary issues. Royal's plan states that in their application. They don't want special needs students and others. They might put public in their name, but they are not. They are a private school taking only the best from a school district. They have corrupted the name public, which has confused the people. We have educators and parents that will tell you stories of why they left IDEA and are back in Harlandale. Ask those parents to give testimony that we can use to educate the community. The other thing TSA encourages everyone to do is vote. This November is not just about electing a president. There are many local and state races that impact the funding for Harlandale and its programs. The 2 State Board of Education members that represent San Antonio have a record of voting for charter schools. Ken Mercer is not running again, and it's an open seat. TSD has a list of candidates that we support in Texas, and you can get that list off the TSA website or the HEA Facebook page. Also, the state board member who is still there, we need to put the political pressure on her. She needs to know that voting for charter schools does not support public education. Instead, it puts a financial burden on public schools. If charter schools want to operate, fine, but don't give them funding from public education funds for their CEOs and their boards that are not elected by the community. The next issue is bringing more students back as we go into the green zone. Dr. Wu met with the San Antonio Coalition to hear educators, parents, and students from every district in San Antonio in regards to her recommendations. When asked about how many students should be in a classroom when we are in the green zone, she stated that wearing a mask and social distancing is the best medical practice. HEA implores the district to practice social distancing by keeping desks 6 feet apart and requiring everyone to wear a face mask, no matter if we're at 100% or not. Harlandale schools should practice social distancing with different schedules, and Dr. Wu said she would meet with anybody who wants to meet with her regarding these issues. Again, thank you for your time, and also we want to thank Harlandale for giving the PPE to every teacher. This is one of the very few districts who did that, so congratulations on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salinas. Thank you so much. We are moving on to agenda item number 3, announcements.
Ms. Mariana?
So today I will be keeping track of time. Is that what you want me to announce, Mr. Soto?
Ms. Cavazos will let the board know.
Okay. I don't think I have any announcements on my part, do I?
We are going to implement, if I may, we're going to implement our timekeeping. As you know, we are doing LSG training, and the board is very on board about making our meetings efficient and making it more about student outcome than most any other topic. Every topic is important. Don't misunderstand. Every item on the agenda is as important, but we really need to stay on focus with student outcome. So this evening, we will begin with timekeeping for the trustees. We are going to limit the amount of time that we speak of a topic. And so we'll see how that goes. We all agreed this would be a good idea, and we will put that in practice this evening. Agenda item number 4, information and discussion items. 4A, 2020-2021 Harlandale ISD District Accountability. And B, COVID-19 Committee will present updated plan for mitigating COVID-19 spread in Harlandale ISD schools.
Madam Chair, right now, I'd like to have Mrs. Casey read our statement.
Thank you, sir. Are you able to unmute yourself, Miss Casey? Perfect.
Now,
Thank
she's
you,
gonna
ma'am.
hear that, she's gonna hear
Sorry.
from that, the principal's gonna razz her about her not being able to.
Well, I actually did unmute it and I got muted, so I'm sorry. Ms.
It
Cavazos,
wasn't me. It wasn't me.
typically at this time, what we do is we have all of our data from Star Data to share. As you know, we did not have that. This year, given to the impact of COVID-19, all districts and schools received an accountability of not rated, declared a state of disaster. Accountability labels and data shown on texasschools.government will reflect the prior year's accountability outcomes. However, the finance and profile data will be updated to show current information.
Thank you, Miss Casey.
Thank you.
Is there anything else, Mr. Soto, on agenda item 4A or B?
And on item 4B, ma'am, I'm gonna have Mr. Hernandez introduce our Kathleen Stark, our administrator from Pure Personnel.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Soto and Madam President, and members of the board. This evening, we have Kathleen Stark, our committee member who has been heading us up on the return to plan and the mitigating COVID-19. So I'll hand this over to Ms. Stark to give us an update on where we are on that plan. Ms. Stark?
Good. Thank you, sir. Good evening, board members and cabinet, Mr. Soto, and community members. First, I want to ask, do I have screen sharing ability?
You should have, if not now, in just a few seconds.
Oh, I do.
There we go.
Great. All right. I've had the pleasure of working with our COVID panel, and our COVID panel has 10 members, which follows the Metro Health Directive that was handed down on August 7th to create a transition plan for transitioning students back to campus when the conditions are feasible. So in developing this plan, we reviewed all of the CDC, Metro Health, TEA guidance. We looked at UIL guidance. We looked at an aerosol study for fine arts. We reviewed a great deal of data in order to create the transition plan that I'm going to be reviewing tonight. So movement between our levels is based on 3 progress and warning indicators. The first being the positivity rate, the positive COVID-19 positive lab tests, which is the percentage of lab tests performed in the past week. The disease doubling time, which is the current number of days it takes for the COVID-19 caseload to double. And we want that number to be over 21. Then we have the daily case numbers over a 14-day period and the daily number of cases for cases where illness onset date is available, the illness onset date is used. And that is over the 14-day period. So we're hoping that that is a decrease. We're always looking for a decrease in the 14 days of positivity cases. We don't want an increase. This is actual today's data. This is the progress and warning indicator that's found at the Metro Health San Antonio site, COVID-19 website. And right now our doubling time is 90 days. So we are way over the 21, which is a good thing. Our percentage of positive cases is 6.4. And this is the graph as well as this one that shows whether it's a downward trend or not. Based on the progress and warning indicators, the San Antonio Metro Health periodically updates the school level. And as of today, the school risk level is still at moderate yellow. They normally update these on Tuesdays. The percentage did not change too much from last week, so I don't expect it to change that much, but it does get updated on Tuesdays. So currently we are in the yellow range according to the Metro Health directive that they handed down. This is just a in writing what we just reviewed, but our first level in our plan is going to be the red level, and our second level is the yellow, our third is the green, our fourth is the blue level. We are currently in the yellow stage, which means we have a positivity rate that's less than 10%. We have a doubling time that is actually greater than 20 days and a flattening of positive cases for at least 14 days. I'm going to move on to the chart because it'll be easier to look at. So for instance, we have the red, yellow, green, and blue levels. Obviously, red level is the most severe. That's 100% of our students remotely from home. Yellow, open with 25% or fewer students learning in-person school, which is what we started today. Level green is open with 50% or fewer students learning in person. And the blue level is greater than 50%, working our way up to 100%. Again, in the red level, we would have a positivity rate greater than 10%, a doubling time of 14 days or less, and a non-existent flattening rate or consider a consistent downward trend. Currently, we're in the yellow zone, which is a positivity rate of 10%, between 5.1 and 10%, a doubling time of 15 to 20 days or greater than 20 days, and a flattening of positive cases for at least 10 days. In the green, we would have to get to 5%. We were hoping we'd be at 5% today, but we didn't quite make it yet, but hopefully we're going to see that in the next week. The doubling time, obviously we're over the 21 days, and we did have a 14-day downward trend. Now the rest of the chart simply reviews some of the things that have already been reviewed in the Return to Learn plan. The safety protocols, obviously if we're all home, it's not applicable. In the yellow zone, which is currently what we are now, we're requiring face masks for all students and staff, hand sanitizing, scheduled hand washing recommended for pre-K through 5, and then all of the other things in the Return to Learn plan. And this is the same across all levels. This will continue. Obviously, it's going to be a while before we get to the blue zone, until they get a vaccine, until we're able to stop the mitigation measures. We don't foresee that happening this year. So we'll see what happens. Academic and instructional, we're in the yellow zone. Remote instruction, either live synchronous or on their own asynchronous, but with ability to contact teacher, up to 25% receiving in-person instruction. And the only difference between the levels is in the red zone, we're 100% remote. Yellow zone, we're up to 25% on campus. Green zone, 50% on campus. And then if we make it to the blue, work from 50% to 100% returning. Extracurricular activities in the red zone, there is no extracurricular activities. In the yellow zone and in the green zone, limited participation of programs according to UIL guidelines with social distancing and masks. That includes the participants and the fans that attend. Operations, of course, this continues all year. The red, we're not on campus, but they're still cleaning because sometimes there are staff on campus. The yellow, we're intensifying sanitizing. Intensive sanitization occurs daily. All the restrooms, handrails, anything that's touched a great deal throughout the day, those are cleaned very, very often, and other common areas. And that, of course, continues throughout the year. Transportation, we're currently in the yellow zone, so social distancing with masks. When feasible, one student seated in every seat. Same home, students will sit together, windows are open weather permitting, and sanitizing after each run, as well as a thorough sanitization every morning and every afternoon after the routes are finished. Social distancing in the green will be at least one student in every seat, home students together, windows open, very similar. And if we make it to the blue, masks required, at least one student in every seat, windows open, similar as the others. Child nutrition, of course, we will continue to have curbside meals for students in remote areas, prepackaged meals on campus, and that does continue throughout the year, which it may change. This is a living document, and as conditions change, the plan may have to change. And that is all I have for now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions or comments at this time?
One question.
Yes, Ms. Limon.
Ms. Stark, how about the rooms? Will there be a window open in the classrooms or just door open or any ventilation in the rooms?
Mr. Blakeney, Mr. Soto,
Mr.
I'm not
Blakeney?
sure if there's the ability to open windows in a lot of the schools.
Yes, so many of the schools don't have functional windows other than for life safety,
Mhm.
but our air conditioning system does meet ASHRAE standards, and we are changing filters on a very regular basis, as we've always have. As far as doors open, typically we're not leaving doors open again for lockdown and those type procedures that might need to take place.
Thank you, Mr.
Part of
Blakeney.
the return to learn plan does recommend that principals look for any outdoor areas that could be used either for instruction. And if the windows are open, it does say you could open windows in the plan.
Thank you, Ms. Stark. Thank you, Mr. Blakeney.
Madam Chair. You able to hear me there, Madam Chair?
I was muted. I'm sorry, I muted myself. Yes, sir.
Just a comment in regards to the plan. It looks really good when you look at the setup of the graph and the chart. It's really easy to read. I like how Ms. Stark was able to present every detail for us, and also reiterating that it's a living document, that it can be revised as we go through. So ideally, we'd love to get to the blue, but as she mentioned, we have to be realistic, and there's a good chance we might not get to the blue anytime soon. So I'm glad that she was able to hit on everything. Any question I had, she answered. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Yes, yes, sir.
I want to commend Kathleen Stark and her the COVID committee for putting this together. It's been a long process, and they are appreciated by the district. Thank you, Kathleen. Let the team know.
Thank you. Yes, good job. Good job of keeping us informed. Thank you very much.
Also, we did return to school today. We had about 25% of our kiddos back, and also want to commend our principals that are here zoomed in. I want to appreciate their leadership and showing the way and easing the anxiety and the apprehension that we had. Thank you for the leadership, and it went very, very well. Me and Miss Casey went out and about and saw some spaces. We couldn't see smiling faces because of the mask. That's a good thing because we're following the rules. But it was great to see the kids back. So thank you, principals.
Thank you. Yes, they have been true soldiers at the line of where the trenches are. So thank you very much. I can't thank our teachers and our staff and our families. They've all been extremely, extremely great at dealing with whatever comes our way. We no longer panic as much as we did back in March. Now we're facing things, head on, and we're prepared. And I thank everybody for that. I don't know if any of my colleagues want to add something. Okay. We are moving.
Yes.
I was wondering if you were going to say something, Mr. Moreno. I kept looking at you.
I'll definitely echo your sentiments as well. Definitely didn't want to steal your thunder in that sense, but we definitely appreciate every single person that's providing enrichment for our kids. Remember, we as a board, we as a school district, keep in mind we're not required to offer in person technically till the 12th, but we're doing what's best for for kids at this moment. And I know it's a tough situation for a lot of us, and a lot of us are nervous and anxious. And we do have some situations that occurred, just like I'm sure that occurred at my campus, I'm sure occurred throughout. But I'm just very thankful and prideful to know that we have such great people that are committed to our kids, whether they're remote still or whether they're in person. So thank y'all.
Very well put, Mr. Moreno, very well put. If there's no other comments from my colleagues, okay, we're moving on. We have agenda item number 5, that's consent items. And in order to minimize confusion, if I may, I'm going to ask my trustees if there are any consent items that they would like to pull. None? Okay. Are there any in particular that someone wants to make a motion on? Ms. Ortiz? Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we accept on the consent items items 5A through 5I.
5A through 5I, consent item, agenda item 5A, consent items 5A through 5I. Is there a second?
I
I
second.
second.
Mr. Moreno and Ms. Carrillo both seconded. Thank you very much. I'm going to take the vote. Ms. Carrillo, yes or no, ma'am? Where's your little sign?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. Ms. Limon, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mendoza, sir, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mendoza. Mr. Moreno, yes or no? Thank you. I saw your thumb up. Thank you. Ms. Ortiz, yes or no, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mancha, sir, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mancha, and myself, yes. So consent agenda item number 5, consent items 5A through I have been passed. Motion passes. Moving on, agenda item 6, individual items. A, consider and take appropriate action on adopting Lone Star governance goals in accordance with HB 3. B, consider and take appropriate action to approve the submission of the state waiver for maximum class size enrollment exception for the 2020-2021 school year to the Texas Education Agency. C, consider and take appropriate action on the request to award United Healthcare RFP 200006 for group medical coverage effective January 1st, 2020, with a 1-year renewal option for 2022.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Limon.
I would like to approve item 6A and adopting Lone Star governance goals in accordance with HB 3.
Very well, ma'am. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Carrillo seconds it. I'm going to take on the vote. Ms. Ortiz, yes or no?
Madam Chair, was there going to be no discussion or presentation or on this? Are we just going to accept it as?
I believe agenda item 6A, there was not going to be a presentation. Unless I'm mistaken. Somebody correct me if I'm mistaken, please.
Madam Chair, we can
Yes.
go over what we've been doing on our Lone Star governance if you like, but it's basically what we went over last time, working with the board and staff at early college, I believe.
Ms. Ortiz, did you need?
No, I was just wondering if that was going to count for what we accepted, what we went over during early college, at the early college high school. When we did our in-person Lone Star governance training.
Yes, that is
Okay.
exactly what we're going. Yes, it's what we did at the early college high school in person. That is the, I'm under that impression. Is that correct, Mr. Soto?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then I vote yes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ortiz. Mr. Moreno, yes or no, sir?
Yeah, and before, because I'm gonna vote yes, but yeah, it'd be nice just because I know they added the progress measures, the actual 5-year plan. They actually added the numbers in there for us. So hopefully everybody saw the numbers and it does align with what our goals are in terms of the 3 that we decided on. So
Yes,
yes.
sir. Did anyone not see them? Any of my colleagues not see those? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Mr. Mendoza, yes or no, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mancha, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mancha. Ms. Limon, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Carrillo, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. And myself, yes. So agenda item 6A passes. Agenda item 6B, do I have a motion for that or
Madam
any?
Chair?
Yes, Ms. Carrillo.
I'd like to move to approve and to consider and take appropriate action the submission of the state waiver for maximum class size enrollment exception for the 2020-2021 school year of the Texas Education Agency. I'm sorry, to the Texas Education Agency.
Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. Is there a second on Ms. Carrillo's motion?
Second for just quick discussion.
Elaine second.
And
Okay, so Ms. Ortiz seconded. Mr. Moreno, you want a quick discussion on that, sir?
no, just real quick, because I know this is always something that we have a little contention on, being that when we're in person, obviously 24, 25 isn't ideal for our kids. But right now, I know with our reopening, Mr. Soto, I don't know if you could just elaborate really quickly, or Miss Casey. I know it's stated there for us, but just to be able to share out with our community, that way they understand how the numbers work in this sense, just because we're technically not in person with the full scope of, or the full load of kids.
Yes, sir,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Moreno. And right now, we'll let Ms. Casey discuss with the board and explain. We have about 5 schools. Ms. Casey? They muted you back, Ms. Casey. Somehow you got muted.
Okay, thank you. We actually have a total of 3 schools, but 5 waivers. And what we have is we have one school at Vestal that has 23, their first grade. We looked at, what we did is track the students. 20 of the 23 students were at Vestal last year, and now they're there. Of the 23, we have 6 that are in person. And we did not want to move a student right now because they don't know their teacher, they don't know their school. We didn't feel that was best. Then we also have Columbia Heights, where they have one class of 26. 22 of the 26 students have been at Columbia Heights. That is actually in first grade, and kind of the same idea. I know Bel Air is a concern, and we actually have 3 waivers there. We have 2 in kinder, one with 24 and one with 23, and then we have a 4th grade with 26. And what we did is we did the same thing. We looked at the students, and we have about 20 students in kinder that were there for pre-K. And we just felt that transition was very tough. In the 4th grade, again, we have over 20 kids that have been at Bel Air from kinder through 3rd, and we didn't want to do that. The other option we had is we can actually look at schools across the district. We have 2 schools that we would normally do is we would combine classes and we would move a teacher. So we have a teacher, we'd move her to one of these schools to alleviate the excess students. Again, if we did that, we were going to impact the 5 or 6 face-to-face students. So just kind of in an effort to keep some form of consistency as we're transitioning back, we'd like to apply for the waivers. Mr. Soto and I talked about offering extra assistance to these particular teachers in these classes. And then, of course, none of them are over 5 or 6 at this point for face-to-face. We certainly are going to keep an eye on these and continue to look at them. And as we move further, if we have more kids that move to face-to-face, we will definitely look at either more support, either bringing over a teacher from another campus, or consider other options at that point.
So Ms. Casey, if I may, the numbers you're letting us know about these schools are only as if we were to be face-to-face at the moment.
The waiver, the state puts a waiver that's the deadline is the end of this month.
Yes, but the number, the 23, the 24, it is, I know right now we're not face-to-face, so that we don't have 23 or 24 students in one classroom, but if the day comes where we're all gonna have to be face-to-face and that number is still 23, 24, 26, that's when we're gonna look into either bringing a teacher back or some assistance for that teacher so that the volume of the children is not so. Is that correct?
That is correct. However, by applying for the waiver, we can also keep it at the 23.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I remembered that from last year, but I wanted to make sure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I just would like to emphasize that even though we will have these waivers, I'd like to for the board to be kept up to date on the numbers so that if those waivers are in fact used, that we know about it.
Perfect.
And it's Columbia Heights, Bel Air, and who was the other one?
And we have 3 at Bel Air, 1 at Columbia Heights, and 1 at Vestal.
Vestal. 1 at Vestal, 3 at Bel Air, and how many at Columbia Heights?
1 class.
Okay,
the first grade class.
Thank you. That would be my request, only that I know we have a lot going on the whole year, but those waivers were such a big deal last year.
Right.
That, and you know, we may not ever reach the numbers of in-person, but if we in fact implement those waiver requests, I would just hope that the board would be notified.
These 5 will be submitted. Now, I will tell you, we have started overloading kids. So at this point, after these 5, any school after 22, when a student enrolls, we are overloading them to another school. So we won't have any other classes with the exception of these 5 over 22.
And I believe that this is, I'm sorry, I believe that we have less waivers this year than we did last year.
Yes, ma'am, we do. We have 5 this year. Last year we had 8. In 18-19, we had 24.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Did anybody else have any comments or concerns?
Yeah, Madam Chair, real quick.
Yes, sir, Mr. Moreno, of course, sir.
Remember, we have it in our board book. Is that a mistake? 2017 waivers by grade, or is that supposed to be 2020? On the headline.
A
Or
typo?
the head.
That is.
Is it a typo or is it?
It's a typo.
I'm just making sure.
Yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
just making sure
Moreno,
because
good
I'm like,
catch.
okay, so is there a certain specific reason for 2017? But I got you.
No, thank you.
Any other comments or concerns, or can we move for a motion?
Motion's already there.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. That's right, that's right. Ms. Carrillo made the motion, yes. I'm going to, and there was a second by Mr. Moreno, correct, Mr. Moreno?
No, it was me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Ortiz. Mr. Moreno's the one that wanted to make it. I'm so sorry. I love that you all tell me when I'm wrong. I love it. Redirect me when necessary. So I'm going to take the vote. I'm taking the vote. Ms. Carrillo, yes or no? Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. Ms. Limon, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mancha, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mendoza, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Mr. Moreno, yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Ortiz, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, and I move yes. So agenda item 6B passes. Agenda item 6C. Any discussion or comment on that?
Madam Chair,
Yes, yes, Ms. Limon.
are we having any discussions on this for anybody presenting or
A
not?
presentation? Mr. Soto, is there a presentation for 6B to give the board and the community a little clarity on the subject?
Yes, Madam Chair. This time I'd like to have Dr. Salinas.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam President. We have Miss Elizabeth Guajardo with us. She will be introducing SWBC as well as two teachers for Harlandale ISD who are also members of the Employee Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Dr. Salinas.
Ms. Guajardo.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to say thank you and good evening to our two members from our Employee Advisory Committee who volunteered their time to come out and answer any questions that you may have regarding the presentation and the information that was passed out to our Employee Advisory members. Very proud of our Employee Advisory Committee this year. We did have 46 members representing 29 different campuses. So this was very exciting. We had a lot of good and interesting feedback. Now to present some of that information, I have two members from SWBC, Andrew Grove and Xavier Guevara, and they're going to share some exciting news on some information that we received this year on our proposals.
Okay. Let me share my screen. We are.
Ms. Martinez, can I please share the screen, Myrna? I need screen sharing, please.
Dr. Salinas.
Remember to introduce yourself. Well, good afternoon, Madam Chair and all board members. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to come back to Harlandale this year and give you what we feel is a double dose of good news. So I would like to tell you that there are a lot of slides on this presentation, but I'm going to try to hit on the ones that make the most sense to tell the story as to the results of the request for proposal for the medical plans for the district. But we can certainly go back and answer any questions or review any of the slides to give you detailed information as you request. So we'll go to the agenda, and let me just speak a little bit about
Madam
that
Chair?
particular slide.
Yes, Ms. Ortiz.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Who is speaking? I am looking for them. Who is speaking?
Javier Guevara with SWBC.
I don't see you on here. Where are you? I'm sorry, I just would like to put a name, a face to the name.
He might be on the second page.
I'm scrolling down all the way. I don't see. I'm just looking to try and find out. I just hear a voice and I don't see a name. Mr. Guevara, where are you?
Well, I am right here. I'm so sorry.
Are you at that at the building?
Yes, ma'am, I sure am.
Sir, can you put your video on? Myrna, can we unlock the video, please?
Looking for him, sir.
I don't see him.
She's taking care of it.
Thank you.
Can you see me now?
No, sir.
I hear his voice. I'm just looking through on the Zoom meeting. Maybe he's U102138.
You want me to walk over there?
Is that what she wants to do?
I can go over there.
What is the name of the gentleman so I can write it down?
Javier Guevara, Guevara.
And you're with SWBC.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I just, I guess we're gonna have to go through it without looking or seeing you on screen.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Moreno. Yes, sir.
it just looks, he's speaking from Ms. Guajardo's computer.
We can see
I
him
mean,
now.
that's,
Okay, I think you might see me now.
Yes, we can see you.
Hello.
it's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Yes, he was using Ms. Guajardo's computer. Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Ms. Ortiz, are you able to see Mr. Guevara?
Yes, I can see him now.
Perfect, ma'am. Yes, Mr. Guevara, go ahead, sir, please.
Okay, up on the screen, you'll have the agenda items, and I wanted to visit with you about those, where we're going to talk about the timeline so that you can get some information regarding when we went out, who responded. The district employee survey results, the historical claims review of where your district has been in the last couple of years, and then of course the meat and potatoes of the presentation, which is the medical plans, the rates that were presented to us as far as proposals are concerned. So we'll go through that briefly for you. Can we move the Okay, I'm not sure that you can see this. It might be a little small for you, but in 2017, the renewal offer that district was provided was at 39% over current. Those were the days where, man, the rates were so high. And we came in and we were able to negotiate that 39% down to 19 and generated approximately $2.5 million as far as savings to the district in that year. The following year in 2018, just to give you a brief history, this district was still running very high claims, and the offers came in at 25%, almost 26% above current. We were able to negotiate those, and we generated another $1 million off of that. The rates were still high. In 2019, we were able to negotiate no rate increase, and that was with United Healthcare. In 2020, the renewal offer by UHC was a little higher, and Blue Cross and Blue Shield was able to come into the district and offer a very competitive rate. I might add that during this time, I'm going to show you a slide that will show you why Harlandale became so good, and carriers out there wanted this business. And so the competitive rates just kept getting better and better year after year. So having said that, can we go to the next slide? On this slide, basically we go out and we do the RFP, we request the information, we conduct negotiations with the carriers, we facilitate the best and final, even after the proposals are in, and then we prepare an executive summary, which is what we're doing this evening. Next slide. Okay. So here's a timeline. On Tuesday, July the 21st of 2020, the request for proposals for the medical plans were due. We had proposals submitted by Blue Cross, United Healthcare, and Humana. And then on August the 14th, after we reviewed the proposals, we went back out and said, okay, can you please take a second look and see what your best and final offer might be? And so we got a best and final offer from all three carriers. At this point, while we were conducting the proposal, reviewing that information, the district was also surveying the employees and asking questions regarding the medical plans. Do you currently have the medical plan? As you can see on the first pie chart on your left, the district currently offers 3 plans. What are your preferences? Next slide, if you.
Excuse me, Mr. Guevara?
Yes, ma'am.
On that slide, it says, do you currently have district group medical coverage? How many people responded?
We had about 700 responses when I pulled the data.
How many people do we have insured?
1,400.
We currently have about 1,400.
So 50% of our employees responded to that survey, is what you're saying?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide. Okay, thank you. Here again, one of the more important questions that we wanted to know from employees was, is it cost? Is it coverage? Is it your doctor? What is more important to you? And the response, as you can see, 62% of employees surveyed said cost is what is important. The next question right next to that, would you be willing to pay a higher premium if you were to get better coverage? And of course, you have the 4 questions underneath that. And 43% in orange, you can see that no, the cost of insurance is high enough. So nobody wants to pay any more for the medical plans as we see them. This is important information because we're getting feedback as to how the employees are feeling and what they want. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Guevara, I'm going to ask this question again. Because I don't want to assume. What is the most important factor when choosing a medical plan? How many people responded?
The results of this survey were the same 700 people. So these questions that you're seeing were all on one survey.
So we're to assume that they answered every single question. All 700 out of 1,400 answered every single question. Is that, I don't want to assume anything. That's why I'm asking.
They did. It was required.
In order for them to move, if they were in the survey, they answered question number 1, they couldn't move forward to question number 2 unless they answered question number 1, is what you're telling me?
Yes, all the questions had to be answered.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next slide. This slide just gives you an idea of where and how many people are participating in each of the 3 plans that the district currently offers. There's 391 on the 4,000 deductible, 975 in the 5,000, and 80 in the $1,000 deductible plan. And again, by percentages on a pie chart for visual effect. Next slide. Again, on a chart, on a graph, you could see the same thing, and you can see that the middle plan really is where most of your employees are participating. Next slide. Okay, this is an interesting slide. It talks about the historical paid claims data. At the end of the day, you know, you have medical insurance to get claims paid by employees who participate in the plans. We can start in 2013. You can see that the group as a whole had $5.8 million worth of claims. The following year in 2014, 7.8 million. 2015, 10.1 million. 2016, 11.7 million. At that point, you know, the district was having some real issues with responses to the request for proposal and so on and so forth, simply because the claims were just too much, couldn't support the plans. So we went into action and had some plan designs, and we started wellness programs, all kinds of initiatives that they're teen champions at Harlandale, and worked really hard. And as you can see, in 2017, it starts going down, 9.4 million, 8.5 million, 7.7 million, and year to date, it's at 2.6 million. By the way, you're running, and then I'll show you another chart in a second, but it took a dramatic change. We went to plus $11 million worth of claims to where today it is so under control that that the carriers are very interested in looking at these kinds of results. And it shows that the staff at Harlandale has always been very supportive. The school board, they got on the program with us about wellness and all those good things. And here are the results. Next slide, have you done? On this slide, it instead of tracking claims, it just tracked a percentage, meaning loss ratio. What were your claims as compared to your premiums? When you divide that, a lot of times people like to see it in percentage wise. So you'll see a blue line right above the 80% of that chart. That's at right around 84, 85%. You want to be under that percentage as a group. And again, that same chart will show you that red line with the arrow straight down. That is an awesome achievement. And Harlandale has been recognized by several organizations last year for having achieved these wellness initiatives and reduction in claims by addressing, you know, large claims that are being caused by some chronic conditions that we address that, and the results are evident right here. And you know, you're currently running at 66% as we speak. That is just a phenomenal number. And just, I am just so happy that the district has, boy, they're in the top in San Antonio as to having achieved that. There's not many groups that I know of that can boast these kind of numbers. And these are real numbers, in fact. Next slide, please. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. So now we go to the best and final type of offers, and I want to show you this first slide. We'll show you the 3 plans that are currently in place and the carrier Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And actually, at the end of the day, it was a 4% increase across the board for each of the plans. And that was their best and final offer over current. If we can go to the next slide, please. I'm just going to show you these briefly so you know that they're here. What I did here was I show you the $4,000 plan and compared the current Blue Cross Blue Shield, the proposal, where United Healthcare is and where Humana is, and gave you the total for each of the plan under total annual premiums. That's just one plan, and I am going to show you this next. I'm going to summarize this for you, but we can come back to this detail. If we can go to the next slide. Here, while you saw the numbers that represent, you know, where the cost is, I wanted to show you the three plans, and as you can see, all three carriers have very similar plans, so that there's no misunderstanding with that. If we can go to the next slide, please.
Mr. Guevara, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to point out the out-of-network benefits for United Healthcare. There are absolutely no benefits for out-of-network. Is that right? No, none. There's none. So in the event of an emergency, if they were on vacation.
Oh, no. If it's an emergency, you always have benefits. You can go to any emergency room, and whether or not the plan has out-of-network benefits, they have to cover that.
Okay, but United Healthcare is not offering any benefits for out-of-network. I mean, there's no deductible, nothing. Everything is 100% out of pocket. Is that correct? My understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the same thing with this plan, but before we move from this particular slide, I wanted to make sure that I pointed this out. Currently, the plan, the middle plan, which has most of the employees at Harlandale, is a $5,000 deductible plan, but Humana offered a $3,000 deductible plan. So I have to compare, you know, the current renewal plus United Healthcare's $5,000, and I had to compare it to the $3,000 deductible plan that Humana offers, and that's a key to their proposal. In this particular case, you have a better plan, but I'll talk more about that when I summarize that in a little bit. Can we?
I have one question on this slide. I'm sorry. What does Flex EPO stand for at BC12 under UHC? What does that mean? BC12 Flex.
Exclusive provider organization. In other words, they pick exclusively the people, the providers that they have in that network.
So it's like an HMO is what you're telling me?
No, it's not like an HMO. There's no primary care physician requirement. There's no pre-authorization kind of thing. It's just an exclusive provider organization rather than a preferred provider organization, a PPO.
Mr. Guevara, I have a question, if I may. So if I were to take the United Healthcare, that means I would have to visit the physicians, the medical providers that are on their list.
Yes.
Otherwise, I would not have any coverage. I'm paying premiums, but I would not have any coverage if I choose not to go with a provider they have listed on their I guess on their program, on their plan. Is that correct?
We can go to the next slide. There you go.
So is that correct, Mr. Guevara?
I'm sorry?
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I would have to go with the list of providers that United Healthcare is giving me.
Correct.
Okay. If I go with someone not on their list, then I do not have medical coverage, correct?
You would be out of network. Yes, ma'am.
Out of network. Okay.
Mr. Guevara, I have one other question. So if you have out of network expenses, does that go towards your $5,000 deductible?
No, ma'am, it does not.
It does not. Okay.
Okay. Next slide, please. And same thing for the $1,000 deductible plan. same scenario, and I'll summarize it in a bit if we can go to the next slide. Oh, that's the $1,000 comparison. I'm sorry. Next slide. And here is the final comparison. When we take the three plans that are currently in place and we put them side by side cost-wise with United Healthcare and Humana, you will see that the current spend for the medical plans by Blue Cross Blue Shield is costing $8.8 million. Their renewal offer was at $9.189 million. United Healthcare, as you saw the plans a second ago, those total to $8.2 million, and Humana is at $8.9 million. So when you look at Humana and United Healthcare for the plans that they've offered, they are both under the renewal offer of Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and United Healthcare is even under the current cost that we have currently with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. To summarize that for you, if you looked at United Healthcare compared to the best and final that Blue Cross has to offer, that's about over $900,000 differential. And if you look at Humana, that's over $250,000 differential, which would be less to the district. So they're both good offers. They're a very, very, you're in a very good place as far as cost is concerned. The cost would be greater, a greater savings with United Healthcare, but Humana did offer the $3,000 plan, which is better than what you currently have of $5,000, and they do have a rate guarantee of 10%, and that could be mitigated to something less than that. So cost, United Healthcare, Humana, 2-year outlook, looking out towards the future. But certainly you can see the difference in cost, but they're both to the advantage of the district. And it's a great thing to be in a position of taking, which one of these offers is best suited for the district to move forward with.
Mr. Guevara, I have a question. I'm sorry, Ms. Cortez, go ahead. I'll go after you.
It's okay, President Cavazos, you can go first.
Thank you, ma'am. So let me ask you this. The rates for teachers only, those that are only insured, just one person insured, are they also lower with the United Healthcare?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to show you a slide that speaks to, okay, this is great and wonderful news. I'm sure that it is. But at the end of the day, how are my employees impacted by each of the plans, depending on which one we select? And all I want to know is how much are my employees going to pay? So I've prepared a slide for you to take a look at. If we can move forward. Here we go.
And that was my question. I only had one question. It was about Humana. Is Humana's a PPO or is it an HMO?
PPO.
Humana is a PPO with a $3,000 deductible versus a $5,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Mancha.
Ms. Guajardo.
Yes, sir.
Last year when we brought in Blue Cross Blue Shield, weren't we guaranteed 2 years that they were not going to go up on price?
No, they offered us a cap. So you'll see, even when you look at United Healthcare, their rates increased by only 4%. So even though we've got such great offers on the table here, even the increase from United Healthcare, I want to say they capped us at 10%.
Yes.
I want to say they capped us at 10%. They told us it wouldn't increase a lot more than 10%, and it didn't.
Depending on the loss ratio.
So it depended on the loss ratio, but they did increase us by 4%, which in a normal time is still fantastic. It's still nothing to sneeze at. We were just able to get other offers that made it
Or more
almost look,
competitive.
yeah, more
I
competitive.
guess I'm gonna have to go back and look at my notes because I remember me fighting about it and arguing about it and being told that there wasn't going to be an increase as long as we maintained a low deductible.
So as
Now,
long
if
as
we
the
went
loss
over,
ratio stayed under a certain percentage, they agreed not to increase us more than 10%. So
yes,
had
ma'am,
we,
and I thought we went under what we had the year prior to the when they gave us the first price.
so very often will you ever get a 0%, because had the
Well,
claims
that's why I
ratio,
questioned it, because when it was brought up to us, and that's when I asked I asked the gentleman if he would take it and give us a best offer.
we can definitely go back.
That's what he's talking about. I'm sorry, I hate to keep having different people.
I might be wrong, but I'll look at my notes. If I remember my notes correctly, they would go up a percentage if our increase would go up, but if our increase would go down, there would not be an increase.
I believe, yeah, and I'm Andrew Grove. I squeezed in here. I'm Senior Vice President of Sales for SWBC. Mr. Mancha, you're right. I was in that meeting. Basically, what you had asked us to go back again, we went back and did a best and final, and they came in and reduced their offer. Their second year deal, though, was tied to a grid that had to do with loss ratio. And with the COVID epidemic, they cut off the claims experience in February.
Right.
And so your loss ratio during that time frame tied in with an increase from Blue Cross of 4%. I mean, I know it's an increase, but that's where they came in at, and it fits the grid that they gave us. So their second year deal. So you sending us back, we got a better deal. They whittled down their price more, and that saved the district money. But they still didn't give us a hard cap. It had based off of the performance of the plan, and based off of the performance of the plan during the timing of the RFP, 4% is where they landed, which tied to what they had offered us. If that makes sense.
I'll look at my notes. I have the paperwork to support my idea that I remember. I might, like I said, I might be incorrect, but if I remember correctly, that wasn't the plan. That's why Blue Cross Blue Shield was making it seem like an offer we couldn't refuse.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Limon. Yes, ma'am.
I was also part of that committee with Mr. Mancha.
Okay.
And I got to go back with in my notes to refresh my memory of what Mr. Mancha just. So I'll go back with my notes also. We had a good plan. We created a good plan. It was Mancha, Ms. Ortiz and I. So thinking it was 2 years, but of course we got to go back to check it out. So we did create a good plan for our employees last year, and we just got to go back and check it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Limon.
Okay, before you'll see the slide as to the employee premiums, depending on which plan they end up in. That's just the pure cost to the district, to the employee on the plans. Had they been with Humana, if they are with UHC, and if they are with Blue Cross, as you can see.
I have a question.
Yes.
There is a committee that this was presented to. There was a survey that was done for throughout the teachers, or was sent out for the teachers to answer. What is that committee recommending? Which option are they recommending that administration and the board consider?
So the survey that you saw with the 700, that was for us to get an idea or a temperature of what employees were looking for during the RFP process. This information was actually presented to the Employee Advisory Committee over 2 meetings, as well as a summary for them to take and act as advocates for their campuses to go and spread that information. So what we asked the Employee Advisory Committee to do was get the temperature of their particular campuses and provide that feedback to us.
And so give me 1 second, Mr. Mancha. So most campuses are saying they would prefer the lower monthly cost than the overall coverage?
We had 25 responses back from the Employee Advisory Committee. 76% of those employees of those 25 responses indicating that they would prefer United Healthcare.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Mancha, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Guajardo,
Yes, sir.
did we invite somebody from each organization? Because that was another issue that we had last year, where only one group of organization from the teachers union was invited and some of the other unions were not invited.
So we sent an invite
when
out
you formed this committee, did you invite a person from each?
So when we sent the invitation or the nominations out, we did not specify organizations, but the organization members also work at the campuses. So we definitely didn't say, no, you could not be a part of it. And we did have some organization members in there as well.
Because that was another issue that was brought up last year, that there was a lot of presentation from only one organization and not from the other. But again, I'm gonna look at my notes, but I'm pretty sure that was a big issue last year.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Ortiz.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, of course, Ms. Ortiz, yes.
So the recommendations that are going to be made to us are made by 25 individuals in the committee. Is that right? That represent campuses?
That's correct. That's who provided us feedback.
Okay, so it wasn't a complete survey. What we're seeing is what your 25 committee members took back to their campuses, and then they surveyed their entire campus, and then they came back and said, my campus wants this. Is that what you're telling me? It wasn't?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Guevara, do you still have more to present to the board?
That's pretty much is a.
Maybe give them an example or two, just for example, it'd be this much savings or whatever.
Well, on the chart that you have in front of you, as you probably see, you can actually see the difference in cost at the employee level and at the spouse and family and so on and so forth. That's something for you to take a look at and study, and might help you gain a little bit more information regarding that. I don't want to sit here and point, just regurgitate the number. You can see it as well as I can. At the risk of, insulting you, I don't want to do that. But and so you may want to take a little time to look at it. But I can certainly answer any questions if you have any along these lines.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Guevara, my concern is, and maybe it's not a concern, maybe it's just, let me just throw it out there. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of the cost versus the coverage, because this is not something, unless I'm misunderstanding, this is not something that the board is recommending. This is not something that administration is recommending. This is something that is being recommended by that committee that has informed their campuses of the ins and outs of this new coverage. I just want to make sure that everybody understands it is not the board telling anybody to go with this insurance company. It is not the administration saying this is the insurance company we need to go. It is being presented to us, the board. And I just want to make sure that people understand what coverage is involved, what cost is involved, and what are the do's and don'ts. So I want to make that real clear. This is not something we are going to imply on anybody. This is simply what we are doing is taking in the recommendation of the committee. So I want to make sure that that committee is aware of all the ins and outs, of all the dots that were, placed on there and the T's that were crossed, and that they informed everybody accordingly. I just want to make sure and say that out there.
Yeah, correct. And just to summarize once again, and the cost is significantly more aggressive by way of savings to the district from United Healthcare. However, Humana has also offered an aggressive, cost, but they're not as much, but they do have another plan. So if you take a look at it, cost-wise, United Healthcare saves the district a whole lot of money.
Yeah, I see that.
Ms. Ortiz, you had a question, ma'am? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to go back to piggyback on what you said. There are 25 committee members and all 25, it was a 25-0 vote to go with United Healthcare? Is that what I'm hearing? Do I understand that correctly?
So no, it was, we had 76% of those 25 who voted United Healthcare.
So give me the breakdown.
I'm sorry, I don't have the numbers, but I'll work them out. I also do want to remind you, we have 2 committee members here. They did agree to attend. So if you have questions for the committee as far as the information that was presented to them, Susan Braun and Sandra Silva should have joined us.
I was just asking Ms. Guajardo. You're leading that committee, are you not?
I am.
Okay.
It's 19 responses.
19?
So
Okay.
19 responses from the 25.
For UHC. Okay.
For United Healthcare.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Limon. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Guajardo, wasn't there a $3,000 deductible from Humana? I don't see it. Is there not recommending that, I guess?
It's on the 5,000 deductible plan.
Okay, that's where it's at.
We put it there as a comparison to what we currently have.
Okay, thank you, Mom.
We wanted to do not quite an apples to apples, but as close as we could to what we have as to what was being offered to us. And then if you can see the comparison there, so we have 871 employees in our mid-level plan. So we have employee-only coverage at that mid-level plan that are currently paying $105.42. So either way, they're going to receive a decrease in premium.
Okay.
Regardless of which plan they choose, it is less than what they're doing right now, correct?
Absolutely.
From what I see.
Thank you, Ms. Guajardo.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Moreno.
Okay, so I guess in going through this, I noticed, the Humana, the 3,000. Is there a reason, Mr. Guevara or Ms. Guajardo, why they decided to omit a $5,000 deductible, or those were just their cost measuring vehicles that they were employing, the 4 and the 3K and the 1K?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for bringing that up. One of the things that we did was to send out the request for proposal. Obviously, the plans are there; they're current there, and everybody decided to match the plans. But by gosh, when we got it from Humana, they decided to quote something different. So having said that, now we have Humana that quoted a 3,000, and for a reason that they wanted to, they offered a lower deductible plan. So then we went out for a best and final, and I think this is important to remember. When we went back out for the best and final, I said, get as creative as you want, just make sure that you give it your best shot. Not saying, somebody quoted anything less, but just giving you that second opportunity that if you want to take advantage of quoting something different, now's the time. And these were the results. Humana stayed with the $3,000 deductible, which makes it different than the other 2 carriers, because they decided maybe not to present anything less than what was on the table already. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then I guess in going through this, I know a lot of times what leads the conversations in these consultation meetings with our advisory groups and with you guys in general, SWBC, like you mentioned, the utilization's at 50%, correct? Right, Mr. Guevara?
At 66%, yeah.
66%.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at about 1,400 people. I know not necessarily everyone is utilizing it. And I know there's some conversation about, was everyone included in this conversation? Yes, I think everybody was given an option or opportunity to voice their concerns or, give their insights based off the committee or the surveys. I mean, granted, there are going to be individuals that are not going to respond because they're not utilizing our coverage. So we may not be able to get the whole entire totality of it in terms of who's responding. But I know it's always been the issue of, I'm paying over $1,000 because I think there was a time maybe in 2016 where a family of three was paying their insurance support, for the lack of a better word. They were paying almost a third of their paycheck was going to insurance, and now we're looking at, and I'm assuming that's why someone would say, I'm going to go with Humana, or excuse me, in this case, United Healthcare, because I'm going to save almost $500 a month. That's money that they can get today versus, at the expense of the coverage or the lack of coverage. And Humana as well. I mean, they're very competitive just as well in terms of the reduction, and they have a better, I guess, overall plan in terms of options. But it's like, in order to receive something, I guess you have to negate some things in order to kind of get that cost measuring formula for whatever company it is, because we're still typically at the mercy of five huge conglomerates when it comes to health insurance. But I mean, that's typically the concern. I mean, you guys have been with us, I think, for what you said, 4 years, since 2016, 2015.
Yes.
So I mean, has any of that narrative changed, or has it been continuously, what can we do to save money because I'm spending over $1,000 on a family of four?
Well, we continue to maintain the same intensity of wellness and the support from the school district has been absolutely awesome. Part of the request for proposal included, what mechanism do you have in place for these plans as a carrier that will continue the efforts on wellness and, biometrics and, the mammographies and the team coaches and the nutrition and the gift cards and the incentive programs all have an awesome program. United Healthcare, I think, started this whole thing with Real Appeal. I don't know if y'all remember that we used to bring in the actual weight scales, and we brought in the actual things that they gave away so that people could see and touch what they were. So all of those are still in place to achieve even more savings as we move forward.
And I guess the other question too, Mr. Guevara, noticing that the rates won't increase more than 14% for the 2022 calendar year, is there a possibility of, being that we've been remote so long and people are still trying to do their best to keep themselves healthy, do you anticipate, or is there some sort of forecast perhaps of maybe it for sure increasing in terms of the utilization and the claims that are going to be potentially had, whether it's any of the companies that are bidding for our contract?
Well, I can tell you that most of the carriers and organizations that we deal with have really run the gambit. Some like Mr. Grove mentioned earlier, that Blue Cross Blue Shield is looking at claims only up until February. They're not looking at claims since February and on because of COVID. Some of the other carriers have actually frozen because they're not sure where their models should be pending the cost of what the COVID expenditures have been. That's really not an answer you are wanting to hear yet, but we keep asking, what is this going to look like in 14 months? Because that's when they're going to come back and say, oh, our losses were a lot less, or they were mitigated. So I wish I could give you a better answer. I don't have it. The model is not set.
So in addition to that, I guess it seems like 14 would be relatively reasonable for in case we do have this huge influx of utilization or claim. It seems reasonable. I don't know if it's necessarily the best, but it seems reasonable for us to say, oh, all of a sudden, we're like 2016 from one day to the next.
Correct.
But I don't know if you noticed in the chat, Mr. Silman from, I guess, Humana said 2 $5,000 deductible options at a lower premiums. Is that correct, or is that accurate? I just saw that on the chat.
I'd have to go back and look at the proposals. I didn't put that one on there because well, not that I didn't. The fact is that if you have a $3,000 deductible and it is a lower cost than what you currently have, that is an option that certainly is to the advantage of the district to take a look and consider. But yes, there are many other. I think United Healthcare gave us 19 possible plan options.
Oh, variations.
Humana, these are not the only ones they gave us. They gave us a whole lot of other ones, but we had to make a decision as to, okay, which are the most aggressive, which are the best coverage, and what would be the ones that would best fit the district moving forward. And we came up to cost, a very aggressive cost, and one that's still good with better benefits. So there you have it. Like I said, a double dose of good news.
Okay. So, I mean, I know Ms. Guajardo mentioned that there are 2 representatives from the advisory committee. Are we able to just pick their brain a little bit and ask just how they came up with this consensus for the group? Is that possible, Ms. Guajardo?
I believe it is, if we can get them unmuted. I saw Susan Braun was on there, and Sandra Silva was supposed to be here as well.
Yes, I'm Ms. Silva. I'm here. I'm representing Rayburn campus. Good evening, everyone. So the way that I conducted this information to my campus was to share the comparison charts during a faculty meeting. And then my colleagues emailed me their vote. I will say on behalf of my campus, our vote was actually for Blue Cross Blue Shield. And it was because my colleagues were more interested in coverage over cost.
Okay.
Some of the things, if I may share real quickly, Mr. Moreno,
Sure.
is that a lot like you, a lot of the employees shared the cost was unaffordable, especially when adding their children to their plan. And so a lot of the employees at my campus do have where they're paying as cash patients even for themselves, or they are under their spouse's policy.
That's at Rayburn, right, Ms. Silva?
I'm
I
sorry?
think that was at Rayburn?
Yes, that was at Rayburn Elementary. So we actually did vote for Blue Cross Blue Shield with coverage having our best interest over cost.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Silva, for that.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Ortiz.
Ms. Silva, what you took to your campus were these charts that we're seeing on the screen? Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. These are the same charts that I shared with my colleagues.
Okay, so Ms. Guajardo, who came up with, who decided, like Mr. Guevara said, that there were 19 plans that were submitted, or Humana had submitted, that who narrowed them down? Who whittled them down? Was it you and Mr. Guevara?
Yes, we worked together.
Okay, so it was you two that came up with this chart, and then each of the 25 individuals that were on the committee went to their campuses with this chart that was decided by you and Mr. Guevara. Is that right?
With this chart plus the others. So the comparisons were given. There's comparison slides that you saw that compared just the individual plans, the 4,000, the 5,000, the 1,000.
Right.
So
But that's what I'm saying.
As well as the summary. Yes.
Yes, because he was saying that it was whittled down, and I was wondering who whittled it down to come up with this chart. And then the chart went to the committee, and then the committee just showed this chart to their campuses. That's what I was trying to figure out.
So the entire presentation was provided to the Employee Advisory Committee. So the presentation that's very similar to what you're seeing here was also provided as well. So we had not just these charts, but also the claims ratio and all of that went as well.
If I may add, Ms. Ortiz, one more thing on a personal level for me, what I did observe in having Blue Cross Blue Shield this year is that my medications are almost half of what they were the year before when we had United Healthcare. So again, just considering coverage over cost personally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Limon. Yes, ma'am.
Guajardo, who was the other committee member that's with us today?
Susan Braun.
Oh, Susan Braun, is she here?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here. I'm Susan Braun. I'm from Carroll Bell Elementary. Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. I too took this information back to my campus, and through an email, I gave the notes that we took during the committee meeting. I also shared the slide showing the comparisons of plans, the employee pay slide, and the summary of information as we had it the night of our meetings. I do want to say that the first meeting that we had not been informed yet, because the board had not voted yet, that there'd be a $25 increase to what the district would be covering for us, increasing for us. And we want to say thank you to that. With the information that I gave, I also set up a Google Forms survey, and it out of the entire staff that was given to all staff, 26 employees responded to the survey. Personally, I think that we were gearing up for the school year, knowing how to do distance learning at the beginning of a school year. And so I'm not sure that everyone gave it the time, because the students were more of our focus, quite honestly. In the survey that I received, 42.3% of the 26 that responded voted for BCBS. 53.8% went to United Healthcare, and 3.9% went to Humana. In hearing your questions, I do have to say that there is some information that I feel that I was not, maybe it was me missing it. I don't know that it was from the committee, because we were given a lot of information that evening. But one of the key things is that I'm not exactly certain, this makes me a little nervous saying this, but I'm just going to be transparent and honest.
Please do.
That it was a 2-year plan, and that United Healthcare is saying that rates will not increase more than 14% for the 2022 calendar year. A 14% increase is high.
Yes, it is.
If we actually hit that, and we don't know where COVID's taking us. And so I did not share that information. I simply did not. But what I find interesting is that Humana has said that they would, that the rates will not increase more than 10%, which to me is significant, without any wellness incentives. However, if we get the wellness incentives, which this is a big game changer for me, the wellness incentive goals could reduce the percentage increase from 10% to no more than 2%. And I know that when you look at these slides, and I know that the overall survey taken over the summer, that cost was the number one concern for all of our Hollandale family. But cost doesn't just mean what your deductible is. And I don't know that I even stated at the meeting that it now reads $0, but at the time it was $37 for an individual. When you pay less, something's got to give. So how much, if we were told a mirror of what we have now for BCBS and UHC were mirror plans, I feel like more information needs to be shared. But I know that we're on a time frame. But I'm mostly concerned about those increases, because a 14% versus a 2% is significant.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Soto.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank
for
you,
that
sir.
information, and Ms. Silva. Discussing this, Ms. Cavazos, with staff, with cabinet, we have the same concerns that are being expressed right now by the board, by Ms. Braun, and by Ms. Silva. And what we kept going back to was that survey. But it looks like we don't have a really good representation of that survey. So I think as a district, we need to go back and really get into the weeds with our employees, because as a staff, we had these concerns that if the employees were really looking at just the monthly premium, that they're going to save a few dollars, but then in the back end, it was going to cost them. It was going to cost them in medication. It was going to cost them if they go out of network. So we debated that back and forth, and as a staff, we said, well, our employee committee, they're the ones that are pushing this, but then listening with some of the concerns and maybe not enough information being out there. Dr. Salinas, is there a way, if I could maybe bring this back for a special called board meeting? And Madam Chair, if there is time, if we can pull this agenda item, get back to our employees, because again, the timing was, as Ms. Braun said, it was a thick of things, and there's no good time right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, but maybe as a district, we can do a better job of reaching out to more of our employees to partake in the survey, and we get a really good grasp that they're really understanding the money that they might save monthly might come back and hurt them when they do buy medications, when they're out of network, you know. So Dr. Salinas?
Yes, sir.
Do we have enough time, or what is the time where we would have to bring this back for board approval?
We can certainly take more time. If you choose to pull the item right now, we can certainly bring it back to the advisory committee, and then also beyond the advisory committee if that's what we choose to do so.
What are you gonna do?
Move your card forward.
You know, let,
Maybe give me the
oh,
I believe that's fair, Madam Chair.
you know, I was gonna say, if this is just me speaking personally, okay, not speaking as a board member, and I know that's kind of hard for me to do right now, but anytime my husband and I need to decide on insurance, it's like, oh my gosh, there is so much information out there, and there is so much we have to compare, and there is so much that we have to take into consideration that I can certainly see if our students are number one on our list. Most of us at Harlandale did not either look into that survey or actually sit down and, you know, and kind of dissect each and everything on these plans. It's a lot to take on. Personally, I hate dealing with insurance, deciding what is best for my family, you know, the pros and cons. So I certainly think that maybe the timing wasn't at its best. It never is. It never is, Mr. Soto, like you said. I certainly would appreciate maybe a little bit more thorough information to our staff, our teachers, just so that they know exactly what they're going to want to do and what they're taking on. Because, you know, you never know what's going to happen in the future, and we want all of us to be as prepared as possible. So I would appreciate if we could revisit this with allowing our staff to have a little bit more time to dissect all the options and all the pros and cons of each of them.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir, Mr. Moreno. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I was gonna go ahead and make a motion, but before I do, Mr. Soto, just to verify, you're suggesting for us to table for the next foreseeable or whatever the cabinet deems appropriate, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to make a motion. I move to table the consideration and action to award United Healthcare RFP for group medical coverage effective January 1st, 2020, January 1st, 2021, for the next special called board meeting, or specifically, I guess, appropriate meeting deemed by the superintendent.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. Thank you, Mr. Moreno. I will take the vote, and we are discussing to table, just for clarification purposes, agenda item 6C. Is that correct, Mr. Moreno?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Ortiz, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. I just want to make sure that when they go back and they're looking at this, this item, that the deductibles are taken into consideration, the out-of-network coverage is taken into consideration, and then if we could get more information on that memo that we just received from, it was on the chat from Humana Healthcare, saying that they did provide 2 proposals with a $5,000 deductible. Thank you, Madam.
And prescription costs too, if at all possible, please. I will go ahead and take the vote if there's no other comments or questions. Ms. Carrillo, yes or no, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Limon, yes or no, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mancha, yes or no, sir?
Big yes.
Thank you. Mr. Mendoza, yes or no, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moreno, yes or no, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ortiz, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. And myself, yes. So we are moving to table agenda item 6C. Agenda item 7, convene in closed session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Sections 551.071 through 551.084. Discuss and take possible action on the recommended regular personnel report, Texas Government Code 551.074. B, consultation with attorney regarding status and legal issues pertaining to Jasmine Engineering versus Harlandale Independent School District, cause number 2018 CI 02459 in the District Court 407th Judicial District, Bexar County, Texas, Texas Government Code 551.071. C, consultation with attorney regarding status and legal issues pertaining to the sale of real property, Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.072. D, consultation with attorney regarding status of claim against insurance company due to damage to district facilities by hail. Do I have a motion to move to closed session?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Carrillo.
I move to go into closed session in regards to authorization by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Sections 551.071 and through 551.084 on items A, B, C, and D.
Thank you, Ms. Carrillo. Is there a second on Ms. Carrillo's motion?
A second.
Ms. Limon, you second? Very well. I'm going to take the vote. Mr. Moreno, yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ortiz, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mendoza, yes or no, sir?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mendoza. Ms. Carrillo, yes or no, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Limon, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mancha, yes or no, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. And myself, yes. It is now, motion passes to go to closed session. It is now 7:57.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
before we all convene back in closed session, can we have a little break? I'd like to get something to drink real quick.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, of course. We take a 5-minute break. Is that okay?
Yes, and you're throwing us into the next
Yes,
room?
I'm going to throw everybody into the next room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
next to the X. Right there. There, and then you should be hot.
I think I'm on, Mr. Soto.
Mr. Mendoza, do you need to get that into closed session?
Madam Chair, can you, yeah, you need to be on it? Oh, hold on.
Mr. Mendoza,
Yes,
do you want me to put you back in closed session, sir? Did you get knocked out?
I can barely hear you. What?
Do you want me to put you back in closed session? You were knocked out? You were taken out of closed session?
Yeah, I was taken out of closed session.
Okay, I'm gonna send you right back.
Is Mr. Mendoza here? Do you know if he came back?
He's still in there, ma'am. I'll get him out.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Mendoza, welcome back, sir. It is 9:05 p.m. and we are back in open session. We're going to take appropriate action on items discussed in closed session. So agenda item 7A, discuss and take possible action on the recommended regular personnel report, Texas Government Code 551.074. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Limon.
I want to approve the regular personnel recommended, regular personnel report approved from TGC 551074.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Carrillo.
Did she say make or move?
Approve.
Approve.
Make sure to always say move to approve.
Move to approve. Thank you, sir. Move to
Thank
approve.
you, Moreno. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Move.
We can always count on you, Mr. Moreno. I love it. So, Ms. Ortiz, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Moreno, yes or no, sir? Thank you. I see his thumb up.
Yes.
Mr. Mendoza, yes or no, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Mr. Mancha, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Limon, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carrillo, yes or no, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And myself, yes. So the board approves agenda item 7A, recommended regular personnel report. Moving on to agenda item 7B, C, and D. We are going to revisit those agenda items at a future date when there is more status and development on those agenda items.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Moreno.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Moreno. Ms. Carrillo, I am going to take the vote
President?
now. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Just really quick before we adjourn, I'd like to wish a very happy belated birthday to Trustee Elizabeth Limon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I hope it was a blessed one.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Thank you.
Ms. Carrillo? Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Limon, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Manchester, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mendoza, yes or no, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Moreno, yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Ms. Ortiz, yes or no? Ms. Ortiz says yes. I see her thumb. And myself, yes. It is now 9:08. Meeting for September 21st is adjourned. Y'all have a good evening. Have a good rest of the week. Be safe. If y'all
Bye,
need
everyone. Good night. God bless.
email us or call us, we're available.
Good
night.
Good night.
Good night, my grandbaby.